I think we'll get started. We have a lot to accomplish today. So if people will continue to join us, and if they need to, they can listen to the recording later. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. As we're nearing the end of Parkinson's Awareness Month, we're excited to bring this presentation called Active Living with Parkinson's, focusing on community exercise classes. We get asked a lot, how can we incorporate the activator poles into community classes? Our amazing guest speakers, Wendy Wilkerson and Dr. Mike Braish, I'm probably totally butchering that, so I'll let him tell you. Okay, good. He gives me the thumbs up. Are going to provide some great examples today on how they have implemented the activator poles into their group activities for clients with Parkinson's. So whether you're a rehab and wellness professional or a person with Parkinson's or their care partner, our goal is for you to leave with ideas to either start a class or provide information to your local healthcare team. My name's Joy Cochran, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I have a passion for helping people with Parkinson's. As you can see with my certifications, specifically for Parkinson's, I'm LSBT Big certified, Parkinson's Wellness Recovery Move certified, and Rock Steady Boxing. And while I have some, in addition, I have some fall prevention certifications. So with that, I am here today as part of the urban polling team as their clinical evidence specialist, because the activator polls have made a huge improvement for so many of my clients and really changed my clinical practice. I truly believe in the power of this tool, and I want to spread the knowledge to impact more people. Briefly, a look at the agenda. We're going to do an introduction of the evidence-based activator polls. We're going to talk about how exercise is medicine for people with Parkinson's, and then we're going to jump right into examples of community classes with Wendy and Mike, Dr. Mike from the Empowerment Neuro Fitness and Wellness Center and the Tribe Wellness. We're going to briefly talk about creating community partnerships, the activator poll features, and then how to actually purchase the activator poles for your community. So let's get started. If you aren't familiar with the activator poles and their benefits for people with Parkinson's, let's hear from Larry Gifford. At a fairly young age, his early 40s, he had 4 falls in a short period of time and was eventually diagnosed with Parkinson's. Larry is now the host of the Michael J. Fox podcast and the Parkinson's Canada podcast, and a huge advocate for Parkinson's awareness. Larry tried the activator poles, and this is what he had to say.
The activator poles should be called confidence poles.
I love that.
Because it really is for at least for me, it's what gives me the confidence to go into a crowd, to go through an airport, to go on a hike, to take a longer walk. Like it gives me enough certainty to say yes. So thank you for making them.
Oh, well, thank you.
Not only are the activator poles helping people get back into their community, there are over 350 evidence-based articles on PubMed demonstrating the benefits of Nordic walking for various health conditions, with 18 specific articles linking the benefits of Nordic walking for people with Parkinson's disease. The activator poles were specifically designed by an occupational therapist and gerontologist to have specific safety features that make them ideal for rehab as well as fitness. So what are some of these benefits that are supported by the current research? The activator poles can help people with Parkinson's with that postural instability. So just by putting their hands on that ledge, they're going to get a more upright posture. It increases and helps their balance and strength. It promotes big movements, so that they're helping with some of that bradykinesia, that slowness of movement, by helping with the confidence while they're using the poles. It reduces stiffness to help with some of that rigidity. By getting them nice and upright, it helps open their hips and get them in the proper position and symmetrical to improve their gait pattern and decrease freezing. It can help with challenging them for coordination, agility. It can increase their walking speed, their intensity, and their endurance. We all know that by getting more active, it can also help decrease stress, anxiety, and depression. And it helps overall get people back out and socializing and in their community. What are the exercise recommendations for people with Parkinson's? Well, the Parkinson's Foundation collaborated with American College of Sports Medicine and 34 other Parkinson's exercise experts and determined that there was needed 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity a week. And that should include aerobic activity, strength training, balance, agility, and multitasking, as well as stretching. But why is this exercise so important for people with Parkinson's? There's conclusive evidence that shows that exercise is medicine for people with Parkinson's. We're going to talk about the 5 top reasons right now. Number 5, social interaction. It is motivating and engaging to get out with other people that are like you, that have other things that you can really talk about, and you can feel like you're on the same page. In addition, you have a coach while you're in a group setting to help increase some of that intensity. Number 4, it improves non-motor symptoms. Those symptoms of sleeping, mood, depression, and constipation that are common with people with Parkinson's. By exercising, it is going to help improve those as well. It delays the progression or even improves motor symptoms for people with Parkinson's, such as their tremors, rigidity, their postural instability, and that slowness of movement or that bradykinesia. It helps with fall prevention and decreasing fall risk. And the number 1 is neuroplasticity. It can help brain change through intensity, saliency, and skilled exercise. So when we're thinking about neuroplasticity, we know that those neural networks in our brains change through growth and reorganization. And what we want to do is rewire the brain through exercise. With Parkinson's specifically, with that lack of dopamine, it always makes movement smaller and sometimes even absent. So we're thinking about that use it or lose it. Fit individuals have more connectivity, so your brain can better learn. It also with Parkinson's, the habitual exercises or the people that get out there and exercise more have a more robust dopamine system. So they're more connected and better able to get that connectivity or those new neurons working together again. So what I'm saying, a long story short, is that exercise is definitely medicine for people with Parkinson's. So how will polls help us accomplish the exercise recommendations that we just talked about? First, a lot of the times it's just getting them in their hands so they can have more confidence. It's that 4 points of contact on the ground to promote larger movements, increased weight shifting, and increased activity tolerance. It helps with balance. So without having your therapist to have to put their hands on you or to hold on or to reach out for anything, it helps them to have a more natural equilibrium reaction to perturbations. It helps improve their posture or that postural instability that we already talked about. It increases their aerobic capacity. There is evidence and research that shows that your calorie expenditure by using poles is 20 to 40% more. We know that in order to be able to help produce more dopamine, we need to get your maximum heart rate up to that 70 to 90%. So by including poles, we can accomplish that because we can walk a little bit faster. It also helps normalize gait patterns, right? Poles force people to swing their arms, which creates increased trunk rotation. So it helps get rid of some of that rigidity. It helps to create bigger, more symmetrical stride lengths. And the poles in general are just good for external cueing, whether that be visual cueing, sensory cueing, auditory cueing, or proprioceptive cueing. They can help create additional challenges with multitasking, coordination, and agility. And overall, it just makes exercising more fun. So if you're a physical therapist and you're on this call, I hope that you're noticing that these are checking all of the boxes for the current clinical practice guideline recommendations for people with Parkinson's. And without further ado, we're going to get to our guest speakers. And the first one that we're going to talk to is Wendy Wilkerson with the Empowerment Neurofitness and Wellness Center. Wendy has a master's in education and is a medical fitness practitioner. She is the founder and president of the not-for-profit, the Empowerment Neurofitness and Wellness Center, which was formerly Empowerment Wellness. She has experience in cardiac rehab and as a physical therapist clinic for outpatient and neurologic conditions. And she's been working with the Parkinson's population for over 13 years. Her specific certifications are with Rocksteady Boxing, Parkinson's Wellness Recovery Certified Instructor. She's an urban polling master trainer, a Parkinson's disease exercise specialist, as well as a multiple sclerosis exercise specialist. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. So like she said, my name is Wendy Wilkerson. I recently became not-for-profit, but I started urban polling right about the time that COVID started. They had informational webinars, and that's how I kind of got into it, because we all know that we were trying to find ways to exercise with our Parkinson's classes, and getting them outside was a good way to social distance and keep them active and moving. So for my classes, currently what we're doing, it's depending on obviously the weather and the seasons here, because we're in Southwest Virginia or Southeast Virginia. So it goes from hot to cold real quick. So it just depends on the weather, hot or cold. But we do go on through the year, depending on the weather. We mostly meet about 2 times a week at a local park. So we do have quite a few parks around us. The best one that we find is one with lots of trees and shade, and benches and bathrooms. We want to make sure everything is nearby for them in order to have a safe environment for them while they're polling. Usually what happens with me is I do an assessment before they come into class, and usually 9 times out of 10, they're in my classes already. So we want to do the assessments and make sure that they are able to independently go out there and walk with us. So that's where our assessments come in and determine if they are able to come with us or not. If they are not able to do it out in the open, the park, we do a lot of the polls in classes with them and utilize them in our classes to do some balance, some exercises in our circuit classes. So we do incorporate them in class as well. Our class, we do include it in the monthly rate. So I do have a monthly rate that includes all the classes. We offer a multitude. We do boxing and circuit and cardio. So the polling is also included with that. Now that we're non-for-profit, we're trying to figure out ways to add it for caregivers and kind of like a as needed basis for people that want to come and join that cannot be members of the gym for whatever reason that may be. So that's something that we're working on currently. And then, like I said, assessments prior, we do lower level. If they have physical or cognitive challenges, we use those in our seated class. And higher classes, we do utilize them in our higher level group for stations as well. Next. Just next slide. There we go. So these are some pictures of us outside. This is what we have. It was hard to find pictures because I have so many pictures in there, but this park is here in Virginia. It's called Mount Trashmore. It's basically an old landfill that they made into a park, but it's got a lot of great features, trees. So we like to incorporate using the park as well into our workouts. So if you look on the far left, they're just working with their poles, doing some toe taps on there. So if you guys are Rocksteady affiliates, you can kind of incorporate that into a lot of the workouts that you do with classes, agility. You can add those, incorporate those to give it a different kind of a challenge. In the middle, on the top, we have the park bench. We use that. So we're doing some big steps, getting our poles up. If you're certified in power, just like power, rock, and reach, you can use that in there. And then I also like to add, if we can, depending on availability and stuff, we like to incorporate stations in there. So the bottom 2 we show adding stations in there. We have hurdles. We have them changing directions with the feet. We have them stepping over different obstacles. They are on an uneven terrain, and the poles help them with that and the balance. And then the lower right-hand corner, that's part of the challenge course we have too. So he's just doing some walking lunges using the poles for overhead, and the cones to the left, we incorporate them. They were weaving in and out of those. And then the far right picture is actually a new park we tried. It probably won't be a park that we use because it's not very shaded and the bathrooms are there, but I just like the picture and I wanted to put it in there for you guys. All right, next one. And then this is how I kind of incorporated him in some of the classes. So to the far left, we have him. It's called a sand dune. It's an uneven surface, kind of like a Bosu, but a different feeling, more squishier. So we're using the poles up there to teach him to step on uneven surfaces. And also the middle one, we have a tire. We just have them stepping in and out of the tire and then onto the step, different height levels. And then the last one, we just had them put them on the poles to kind of give it an uneven kind of feel, like if you were on a gravel, or just kind of mimic that kind of feeling, doing some squats with that one. And then next. So this is one of the testimonials. This is one of my guys. He's been with me for a while now. He saw the benefits of the Urban Pulse activator. His balance, his posture, and weight management improved significantly. He also noted less stress on his knees, hip, and back. He enjoyed them so much that he got his 95-year-old mother working with him. So she doesn't have the Urban Pulse in that picture, but she did get a set. But she lives, I think, in Pennsylvania. But she's probably 96 now, still walking. So adding the poles helps keep going and keep moving. And then I just wanted to incorporate some tips for starting classes if you're kind of thinking about it. So I would just make sure to clarify requirements for pulling outdoors. I know some parks might require you to pay or have some kind of waiver. So you want to check into that to make sure that you can do that in a park or wherever you find outside to go. You want to make sure that you have locations that have a clear walking path with places to be able to sit if needed. That's kind of what I was telling you, that last picture I showed. They didn't really have a lot of places for them to sit. It was just one little walking path around and it was not shaded very well. So you want to make sure that you have a good path, that it's safe, and that you're able to sit if needed. Also make sure to have restrooms nearby. That's important because sometimes we have to go to the bathroom, we get walking, or we're like, oh no, we got to go to the bathroom. So make sure that they're close by, especially if you have them drinking water when it's hot. I know here in Virginia, we get hot, the humidity. So plus we need to have them drink anyway. So making sure those are nearby. And also make sure you have a first aid kit with you. Luckily, I haven't had to use it quite often, but there was one time that I could not join the class with them and they decided to do a walking path by our gym. And guy went off the path and fell and ended up going into a fence and cutting his head. So luckily they were by the gym. We were able to go out there and get that situated. But that, and then overall just have fun, use different surface areas. Like we went the other day, it was a nice day. We got to use the trees, walking around, doing figure eights. It's uneven surface. There's pine cones, there's gumballs, there's pine. I mean, everything's in there. So just making sure it's safe and that they're able to do it. And make sure it's fun for them too, because if it's not fun, then they're probably not going to want to go out. And next, I think that's it. Great.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much, Wendy. It sounds like you try to get them out, and by going out into your parks, you're getting them out into their real life and into the community, correct? Like, so they're really seeing things that they want to be doing, like going to the park with their grandkids and those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely. Just and I'm because you're going to go from gravel to hard road. Like you just want to kind of like incorporate that so that they're able to use the poles and make sure that they're stable for them when they're doing those kind of different surface areas.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Wendy before we move on? You can put them in the chat. Or I think that you can unmute yourself and ask questions. We'll take just one or two questions and then maybe save the rest for later. Anything specific in regards to any of our classes?
Joy, under the Q&A, we have two questions.
So the first question is, what is your ratio of therapists to clients?
Right now it's just me. So we usually have 5 or 6. If I have about 10, it depends on their ability too. So luckily with mine, I have 2 or 3 that are very independent walkers. So they go in groups and they do a little bit longer path. And I usually stay with like the little slower one. So we just do a shorter path. But I would say like 1 to 5 or 2 to 10 if you're planning to do a class. If you have more, that's going to be really dependent on how you feel with them, how safe you feel, and go from there.
Absolutely. And another way to try to start out is introducing them inside. Like you said, you do your assessment individually, but even seeing how they walk inside will help you kind of determine whether you feel like you can go out with how many people by yourself in regards to their ability level and stuff like that. But 1 in 5, that's kind of what we usually recommend as well. But trying to give them options, like you said, some of the faster ones can go out and come back and meet up with you guys, but they don't have to wait around. They can still get challenged by creating different things for them to be able to do. Excellent. The other one is not specific to the question, so I'm going to wait and hold it off till the end. With that being said, we will, thank you very much, Wendy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My clicking is a little delayed, so I apologize. There we go. Next, we will talk to Dr. Michael Braish from Tribe Wellness. Strength in numbers, he says. So Mike is a doctor of physical therapy. He specializes in helping people with Parkinson's. He is a published researcher on exercise for Parkinson's disease, and he is a martial artist, former amateur fighter, and currently internationally certified fight referee. He's a contributing faculty member at the University of St. Augustine School of Health Sciences in Dallas, Texas. Mike founded Tribe Wellness in February of 2017 to create a place that changes the way physical therapy is structured, empowering people to better participate in community wellness. In addition to treating individual patients in therapy, he runs group exercise and research programs that are steeped in leading evidence from physical therapy and exercise science to help people move and feel better. Outside of patient care research and group programs, which I don't know how he has any other time on top of that, but he is also an active member and young leadership for Movement Disorders Society health professions. He's on the advisory board member of the UT's Southwestern Adaptive Sports Coalition. He is a member of the medical advisory board for the Dallas area Parkinsonism Society. He's an advocate and presenter for the Davis Phinney Foundation and the Parkinson's Foundation, and he's an advocate for the Parkinson's Foundation and was an MC for them at their 2022 Moving Day Milwaukee. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. I am going to turn it over to you.
All right. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, I'm excited to be here. And you mentioned the Davis Phinney Foundation, Joy. I actually heard about these urban activator poles at a wonderful event the Davis Phinney Foundation put together in Austin, Texas in 2019. And there I met the creator of these things. And I remember thinking, I've seen people use poles. What's the big deal? Since then, I've been able to really help people in a lot of ways that I normally wouldn't because of these urban activator poles. So here at Tribe Wellness, just like a lot of folks who are in this Parkinson community, we really try to help people do well now. And we do that by having our 15 group programs a week just for people with Parkinson's and other forms of atypical Parkinsonism. We also do one-on-one physical therapy to help people better participate in life outside of class and also to get more out of their participation in class. And then we do all kinds of wild and crazy community events too. During the pandemic, we had a virtual pet show. We had a virtual lip sync battle. We've had a lot of fun with our friends here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and some people have joined us from all over the country. But I was most excited about these polls first because probably about 5 years ago, I realized earlier you mentioned salience and neuroplasticity. And one of the key principles or pillars of neuroplasticity is specificity matters. And we know the best way to get better at walking is to work on walking. And I noticed, gosh, I lead a lot of group Tai Chi classes for people with Parkinson's. That's great for balance and posture. I run a lot of group boxing programs, and I get to research that too, which is really cool. But we're not doing anything specific for walking. And my friend Tony, God bless him, he said, hey, years ago, I worked on a walking plan to hike Mount Whitney. What if we set a crazy goal of a hike and we set up a walking group and we went out walking? And sure enough, we went to, for a lot of people, this is not a big deal, but for us in Texas, it's a pretty flat state. We went to the top of Texas, the Guadalupe Peak, which is 8,757 feet of elevation, 21 people with Parkinson's. It was a crazy day. It took a lot longer than we thought. It was a lot harder than we'd planned on. I wouldn't recommend doing something that says warning, extreme difficulty, again, without a structured training program. But what came out of that experience, that 14.5-hour hike that was supposed to take 6 hours, is our peak performers walking group, our hiking group. And what's great about that is we now set up a long-term goal, just like I do with patients in therapy, a long-term goal. We're going to do a big hike. We just did one last weekend in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, at Beavers Bend State Park, which, if you don't know it, I didn't know this until we got there. It's famous also because people think the Sasquatch is there. So we got to see all kinds of Bigfoot paraphernalia while we were hiking, which was also cool. But to get ready for those bigger hikes, the lesson I learned from our big one at the top of Texas is not just to believe people when they say they're training, but to set up regular interval walks in our community at parks all over Dallas-Fort Worth. And we're so fortunate here because we've got a whole lot of grad students in physical therapy programs that have an interest in helping people do better. And we've also got a bunch of undergrad students who want to get exposure to helping people with varying ability levels. So we've been able to get a lot of student support on our hikes and our walks. Usually we're able to get like a 1-to-1 ratio of hikers to helpers. And we love these urban polling activator polls because, for example, and I think this answers a question that popped up earlier, and it's from my friend Cindy Donahoe. Cindy, good to see you. She said, why not just use any old polls? Well, for one, these handles designed by an occupational therapist support a lot more force, and they promote an appropriate grip in the hand to reduce some of these issues I've seen in boxing class when people are punching with unstable wrists, or when people are using poles that aren't the urban activators. It almost looks like an overuse injury that can happen pretty often in the forearm, tennis elbow, golf elbow. That's one reason. But the real reason I love these things, let me unblur my background too so you can really see this, is just like, as a PT, I see people a lot of times will fit them for walkers. If somebody needs a walker, this set of poles is probably not ideal, right? But with the way to adjust the height on these, it's a similar push button level of security that you'd see on something like a walker. A lot of times the other poles that we used to use, you'd twist them into position to lock them out, and somebody might be pushing down extra hard to navigate something tricky, and that twisting, locking mechanism could easily come unlocked. That doesn't happen with these things. So that's one of the reasons I absolutely adore these. And over time, we've started using them more and more in our clinic too. In fact, I've got a guy who just about everything I tried with him in the past for his freezing of gait was unsuccessful. And we got a lot of PTs on the call here, so we know, there are things like visual cueing. You might have a laser level that somebody might step over. Some people respond to that. That's great. You might see something like an auditory cue and have people doing metronome walking to a beat. or like, rhythmic auditory stimulation is the fancy term for it. And that might work, it might not. Sometimes with freezing, people are impacted positively by a change in their medication or their schedule. But what I found is with this one guy where nothing else worked, when I had him try the poles, all of a sudden, he was able to use a heck of a lot more intentional focus on the task at hand. And like Joy mentioned earlier, he got immediate tactile cueing because he was able to see, am I advancing the poles? He could feel it. Am I getting that symmetrical arm swing? And also, he realized a lot of times when he's freezing, he was really hunched over. And since these poles promote more upright posture, his foot placement is much more even. He could feel his heels on the floor a lot better, which many of you know is one of the keys to success when somebody's feet start festinating, fast, rapid foot motion, or when they freeze. So yeah, we love them for our groups, for the reasons people have stated already, the intensity, it looks cool. Also, you get more arm swing. You feel like you're really hiking and getting out there. Or for urban polling, like the company's named, walking around your neighborhood on a walking program, still promoting symmetrical arm swing, symmetrical step length, upright posture. And even for off-weighting achy joints, it's a whole heck of a lot better to be able to walk further when you're training. And that's easier to do if you've got a little bit of support that can come from using these poles. So in addition to our groups, we just found a whole lot of reasons to fall in love with them in our clinical practice too, which is why when I met Joy at the APTA conference, I was just so excited to share with her some of the success we've had. And hopefully some of you can take some of those tips away too. And with that, I'll quiet myself and see if there are questions. While we're waiting for questions, I'll say this too. Sometimes people might say, I don't want to use those. I don't like the stigma of walking with anything. But if I take a video of them before with their best walking, and then I take a video of them after using the poles, there's almost always a night and day difference in terms of their posture and their gait mechanics. The only time there isn't a night and day difference is one of two scenarios. Either we've got some folks here at Tribe Wellness who are extreme overachievers, and they may overanalyze everything, absolutely everything. And for them, I might say, hey, try not even thinking about it. Just try walking and dragging those poles, and then we'll see about moving them. And they kind of naturally can pick up a rhythm when they're not overthinking it. I've run into some other folks, though, who, for whatever reason, when it comes to motor planning, maybe because of that bradiphrenia slowness of processing that can come with Parkinson's, maybe coordinating the poles is just a little too much for them. But that trial lets me know. That tends to be more unusual of a scenario, or it tends to be somebody that's maybe later on who's maybe better candidate for a walker anyway, but we're just trying it to see. But usually when they see that video, they feel a heck of a lot better. Or if you might say, I don't know, some of us are pacifists, but you might say, in case you needed to whack somebody, and we know that we really wouldn't encourage that, but we can jokingly say, if you needed to whack somebody who's misbehaving, you got a stick that way, then they tend to get a little more excited and laughing and are willing to try it. Afterwards, we're sure to tell them, hey, just like with boxing class, we're not hitting anybody, we're not hitting anything, please don't whack him. But sometimes that little joke is enough to get over the hump to try them out.
So I have heard people that have told me that when they go on walks, sometimes there's dogs that they know that they can now use them to fend people off or fend the dog off, right? And I actually personally was hiking with them in the Tetons, and I used them because we came upon somebody and she told me that there was some bears up ahead right off the track. So I used them as noise makers to make sure that I didn't run into any bears.
It's a great idea. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, a similar experience here, Joy. One of our tribe members who was on a hike with us, getting ready for our big hike, named Jim. We've since nicknamed Jim St. Patrick. And we know St. Patrick was famous for casting the snakes out of Ireland. And we came across a snake on a path here in Dallas when we were walking, and he happened to just have his poles and moved one of his poles right near the snake, and it turned around and slithered away. And so we've really taken to calling him St. Patrick. I'm not sure if he likes that or not, but it's fun.
He saved the group. Excellent. Yeah. We do have one question that came in, and I'll let you answer it. They have a client whose left arm is much slower than the right. He's not done well with the poles. Do you have any suggestions?
Left arm is much slower than the right. I guess it would depend on why it's much slower. If it's much slower because of Parkinson-related dystonia, he might revisit things with medical management with his movement disorder specialist. You might, in fact, just incorporate that unilateral pole, depending on his balance, in other activities to try, because it's so stiff or slow or maybe weak, to try to get him to use it more. Just like in a boxing class, if he was really stiff and really slow with one arm, we might try to have him double up for a couple rounds on the left compared to punches with the right. That makes a lot of assumptions that he's otherwise safe, but hopefully that's somewhat helpful.
Some blocked practice, right? So breaking it down instead of using it while walking, maybe start out as block practice in regards to exercises, I think would be great. Like you just said, air augmentation, maybe put some additional weight on there to see if that brings in some more awareness on that side for him, are some things that we've tried. But yeah, great ideas. All right, with that being said, Mike referenced being able to take videos of people, and that's exactly what we're going to do next, is kind of show you a video of the difference between somebody walking on an uneven surface with and without the poles. So I'll kind of talk you through it. On the left-hand side, you'll notice that she is not swinging her arms. Her steps are smaller. She's looking down. When you get the poles in her hands, look at the difference in her stride length, the speed of how she's walking. Without the poles, she's really shifted over and doing a lot of lateral motion. And there's much less of that when she's walking with the poles. And in general, she looks a lot more confident. One other community exercise class example is that the activator poles are actually going to be highlighted as an effective tool for community classes in a poster presentation that will be at the World Parkinson's Congress in Barcelona this July. So another example of really the class started in the outdoors. They were used originally for confidence, to be able to get people doing more on uneven surfaces, really getting them able to feel good about their balance in those situations. And as they got stronger and as they progressed throughout the class, they eventually progressed to be more tools to be able to go through higher level challenges, such as hills when they're on hikes, or maybe we even changed it to the class now actually is using them for urban polling instead of just the activator technique, which is the more balanced technique. So they've progressed great, but I just wanted to highlight that as well. And as Wendy, I know that she just had a grand opening to invite the community in, and Mike referenced the community as well, and just how important it is to make sure that you're creating a community around you. And how do we make this happen, right? I really suggest trying to get out there and get involved with creating local partnerships with other people that are focused on helping people with Parkinson's. So therapists, not-for-profit organizations, support groups, community group exercise classes. All of these people, the activator poles are a good conversation piece to get in there and something different than what other people are showing. And they really help, there's evidence behind them, and they really help immediately, with some people, by just putting them in their hands, they can tell a difference on how they're going to help them, and or the people that are with them can see the difference once you put them in their hands. So I just wanted to give another example of how I've created a community in Wisconsin here. I have reached out to the Wisconsin Parkinson's Association and just asked if I could do a free demo. I started going to a few of their events, and they have really embraced the activator poles because they could see that difference with their clients. With their community of people with Parkinson's, their care partners, all of those guys. So now we have this great community. They have actually hosted a class. So we taught some of their instructors how to do the activator technique through our continuing education course. They on their own went and applied for a grant and received it, so they can go out and now teach workshops, and they received polls that they're going to be able to give out for free to participants of those workshops. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved with the community, and every single area or every single location is going to be a little bit different. But I feel like there's so much opportunity out there to help you create more opportunity for yourself as a person, for yourself as your business, for the clinic, wherever you work. And if you're an end user, I always recommend and ask you to please take some of this information back to your healthcare professionals, right? Sometimes it's just about, there's so much information out there, we don't get all the information, so we need to be educated by the end users as well. With that, I'm going to show you just a little blurb on how they were highlighted in the community.
Ron Scheer says he was diagnosed in 2015.
It's my tremors were starting. I just thought it was part of old age, but apparently it wasn't. It was part of Parkinson's. My father had it, and I have two uncles that have it, so it runs in the family.
Scheer started coming to these free classes 4 years ago. He says because of it, he can go bowling.
I'm still able to balance myself by throwing the ball.
Bill Rossi says he too noticed a tremor in 2018.
Started in my right arm, then my left arm, then my left leg. You're dealing with a lot of embarrassment when you're going out too, so I can see how people kind of limit themselves going out.
The Wisconsin Parkinson's Association says more than 15,000 people in the state alone are living with the disease. They want you to know there are resources out there you can take full advantage of. Mary Wood has been a Parkinson's-specific instructor since 2009. She says symptoms usually begin gradually and worsen over time, oftentimes making it difficult to walk and talk.
Hands down, the only way to slow down the progression of Parkinson's is through exercise.
Wood says urban walking poles have recently been a game changer.
And there's just been a lot of research and studies shown that they help people with Parkinson's with balance and posture, just giving them a little more sense of confidence to get out and take walks where they might normally not feel safe.
And because there's currently no cure for the condition, experts say moving is a must.
Very important to get out and to do things. Don't stay at home and kind of isolate yourself.
In Cudahy, Daniela Cado, CBS 58 News.
So in general, people are really, what I found anyway, people are intrigued by polls, right? They create a great public relation piece for your local media. And ultimately, that is bringing more awareness to Parkinson's disease and showing how beneficial, and something like she said, there is not a cure. So how can we help the community, the people with Parkinson's disease, as much as possible? So polls help bring people together, they open up possibilities, and they enhance exercise. As a company, Urban Polling has created a lot of national and international relationships with other Parkinson's-specific experts. As well, we've created relationships with other industry leaders that may play a part in helping people with Parkinson's, such as VITA to help with some dizziness, maybe the Arthritis Foundation, because there are some people with our polls. Another benefit of this grip is that they're bigger, the handle is bigger than most, and so people do not have to death grip it. Their hand can sit nice on that ledge that's already there and loosely fit around that. And we've actually been honored the certificate of ease of use through the Parkinson's Foundation. Rocksteady Boxing is one of our specific partners, and we actually have a course specific for them. Wendy mentioned that a little bit earlier, so that you can figure out how to, if you're already with Rocksteady Boxing, implement the activator pulls into and add that into what you're already doing for people through your Rocksteady Boxing courses. Power moves, I think Wendy and Mike both mentioned that as well. Parkinson's Wellness Recovery, you can help them become a tool for when you're using some of those moves and mix it up so that they're you're doing the moves, but you're adding another tool in there to help them with some of their deficits. With that being said, let's watch this video of some other examples of how you can structure classes. So I charge healthcare providers to introduce polls into their clinic or current classes. And for people with Parkinson's and their care partners, I charge you with informing your healthcare team or group exercise instructors to let them really know about how powerful this tool is.
How are you feeling, everybody?
So we can use them in standing exercises, sitting exercises,
Beautiful job.
as well as walking and hiking. All right, before I open it up for the final questions, I just want to kind of discuss or talk about some of the other upcoming events that we have going on. We've already published a great podcast with Sharon Kirscher of Twitchy Women. She tells us her journey and her story with Parkinson's and how the polls have specifically benefited her. This Saturday, we have an exercise class free of charge coming up virtually and with Stacy Macaluso. And so that will be a great thing to even just see some additional exercises and how to use polls within classes. And then for the healthcare professionals that are out there, we have 2 courses coming up, one for instructors, which is this Saturday in the afternoon, and then one coming up specifically for our Parkinson's Wellness course, which is on May 27th. With that being said, I think we are going to just briefly talk about professional pricing. So if you feel like you would like to bring polls into your community classes, into your clinic for healthcare professionals, we have professional pricing. If you're in Canada, you can email orders@urbanpolling.com. If you're in the US and international, you can contact Deanna Oliver at deanna@urbanpolling.com. And if you're an individual with Parkinson's, or if you just want to buy one poll, I really suggest, even as a professional, getting the polls just to see how they feel in your hands before you start using them with individuals or in your classes. So individual orders, you can either go directly to our website at urbanpolling.com. You can use the coupon code UP2023 and get 15% off. Either our urban polls or our activator polls. And we were specifically talking about our activator polls today. Those are the polls that are going to have that additional safety features, that have that pin lock system that Mike was talking about. It also has a bigger surface area on the bottom to help with balance. Our urban polling series, they are going to have the booty bottoms and they have a twist lock and they're more for the fitness as fitness tools. You can also find our products on Amazon. And with that, I thank you for being here today. I greatly thank Wendy and Dr. Mike for being here and presenting and talking about their courses. We'll open it up for just a few more questions. I can see that some came in, and we'll address the one specifically. You guys can answer any of these questions, and if you don't feel like it, then I can try to help answer questions. But is this activity also appropriate for those with fractured bones acquired through a car accident?
For that one, I think it probably depends more on, have those fractures healed? And I know that sounds obvious, but if they've healed, if you've been cleared by a physician, then I think it's certainly worth a try. provided your balance is sufficient and you've got everything needed for normal walking and hiking. If not, well, then step one is let's get those fractures healed first. I'm not sure if that fits exactly the tone of what you're looking for an answer, but hopefully that gives you a place to start.
Excellent. Thank you. So there is somebody that's Cynthia is asking, I received calls from Parkinson's patients here in Tampa, Florida. However, I'm a certified urban polling instructor, not a clinician. Who can I direct these patients to for training? So on our website, we have a tool called Find a Clinic or Find People in Your Area for that have been trained on urban polling. So you can go there and try to find physical therapy practices. I also know that by going to some of the nonprofits, so the Davis Finney Foundation, the Parkinson's Foundation, Parkinson's Wellness Recovery, all of those, I think Rocksteady Boxing even, specifically to find a clinician, if they're interested in some of those other avenues, Rocksteady Boxing or Power Moves, I believe their websites also have find exercise professionals or physical therapists specifically in the area. And you yourself can reach out to physical therapists in the area and try to find who the professionals are that are specifically treating clients for Parkinson's. And then you can be the one that introduces them to the urban polls and create that relationship that goes back and forth as well. I have Bill who asked, we have an indoor track which allows us to do polling in any weather and has a smooth surface that eliminates trip hazards. Awesome. So exactly, you can, if you have people that aren't safe to go outside and be in the community and do some of those other things, you can always keep them inside and provide plenty of challenges and different activities inside in a safer environment. Thank you for sharing, Bill. That's awesome. Can you review how to properly size the polls? Absolutely. So let me just unblur my background as well. I remember how to. There we go. So what we're going to do is you're going to take and adjust the polls so that when somebody is standing up, if you're using it for balance, you want them standing and so that nice and tall, the pole is going to be just in front of their toes and out a little bit, and their arm is going to be at 90 degrees. That's where I start. And a lot of the times you can tell when they start walking, it might look uncomfortable. They'll tell you whether it's uncomfortable. You can adjust it up or down one. Usually the higher you have it, the more it's going to help with that upright posture. A little bit lower, it's going to help with a little bit better balance. But a general rule of thumb, and you want to keep it fairly close to that 90 degrees and then adjust it up or down probably one notch. I've been using Tom Rutland's Extra Strider poles for years. They are seemingly the exact same design as the activator poles, including the molded grip. Are they related? So I believe they are very similar in regards to the look, but I don't believe Extra Striders are in business anymore because I believe they were out of Madison. And after COVID, I think they went out of business last I knew, but very similar. They were my second choice of poles after the activator poles. Is there an optimal way to walk with the poles and where would one learn that? Excellent. So I will do a quick demonstration here and then I will give you a reference of where to find them. So I will set my poles up to the right height. If you're using them for balance, so I'm using them for the activator technique. Can you see me back here? So you're going to set them up, they're at 90 degrees. Just like you're walking, it's going to be opposite arm, opposite leg. For every foot plant, there's going to be a pole plant. The poles stay in front of you and perpendicular to the ground. So for every plant, we want to have that bell bottom flat on the ground so that it's providing as much support as possible. I don't know if you guys can see my feet. Do that one more time. So you're here. You can also go to our website, urbanpolling.com, and go to getting started. And there's a great quick reference point there of why are you using the poles? It will give you kind of a guide of which poles to get. It also has videos there on how to set the poles up. It has videos there on how to use the poles. So that would be a quick reference guide. There's a lot of other resources on there in regards to the poles as well. Any other questions? Oh, I'm looking in the chat real fast, I think. So the one last question that I see here is that I'm a Rocksteady boxing coach, and I'm wondering if you have to have any other training in order to offer urban pulling aside from your training. I'm not a PT or an OT or a fitness professional. So if you are a Rocksteady boxing coach, you've already received a lot of what you need in regards to how to properly work with people with Parkinson's. And so we do have host actually a specific course for Rocksteady boxing coaches to take urban pulling and show how to supplement it. I think we have a course coming up, which Wendy is going to be the instructor on May 13th. And Rocksteady Boxing just sent out an email to all of their coaches in regards to that course specifically for signing up. If you didn't receive it, you can reach out to us and we can provide you that information. But in general, we want you to be familiar with working with people with Parkinson's and or the clientele that you're using the poles with. Dr. Mike, Wendy, do you guys have anything else that you would like to include today?
I just think there's one more way to get out and get moving, and that is where all the magic happens. So I sure appreciate your having us and putting this together.
Yes, thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate both of you guys and all that you do for everybody that you serve within your clinics or within your business, and the people with Parkinson's. And thank you for your continued collaboration with us just to make everything better, right?
Right.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here.